So one of the things that, we very often do is when we have new members is introduce them to MASB and MASB to them to, get an idea of, what the new member has done in the field of accountability, what their perspectives are on it, and really what they're trying to achieve in the whole area. And I'm thrilled to introduce Michael, who is the global leader for strategy and insights for global corporate affairs at Johnson & Johnson, and has done we have been extremely impressed by the thinking that Michael has led at J&J and how advanced they are in really measuring brands and linking them to value. So I think that everybody in MASB, that Michael has a lot to contribute, and his team have a lot to contribute to MASB, and hopefully MASB will contribute, a lot of team thinking and insights, which will also help him. So quick introduction, and Mike, you can jump in and give some color to this. So there's Mike's title. He's been at J&J for a long time, both in the global franchise where he is now and in the regional marketing organizations, the innovation groups and business development, so many different areas of the business. He manages a very diverse team with expertise in managing reputation, communications, and marketing and metrics. He's very much focused on data, which you can put into action. For him, it's all about ensuring that corporate reputation grows stronger and plays a bigger role in driving business outcomes. He led the creation of their proprietary global reputation intelligence system, which, as I said, we were hugely impressed to learn about. He's very qualified. He has a BS and an MBA. And Michael, welcome. It's going to be great fun working with you.
Oh, hello, Joanna. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, terrific. And thank you for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to be in your spotlight interview today. And I very much look forward to meeting others on the MASB staff and certainly other members who are on the call with us, today as well, and in the coming weeks and in coming months.
Okay, great. So Mike, what I really want to do is just get you to talk, right? And to share your thoughts with us. But perhaps just to start you off, you could, how did you get involved in measuring corporate reputation? What sparked your focus on it and your passion for it?
Yeah. So I kind of stepped into it, I'd say, in my current role. And when I joined corporate affairs from another part of Johnson & Johnson, it came at a time when we were really thinking about our reputation, and there was a growing focus on reputation for inside the company. We've always admired, the strong reputation that the company has, and we've appreciated how well we are considered among different stakeholder audiences throughout our history. But I'd say about 12 years ago, the world kind of changed. We were accustomed to being ranked number 1 or number 2 in the external rankings. Think about Forbes, think about Barron's, Fortune. We were always number 1 or 2, but we couldn't take that for granted any longer. And we actually started to see some changes where companies like ours with large iconic consumer businesses and consumer brands were being replaced in those rankings, by really tech companies and information type companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. And so I was brought in at the time to create really a group and to really land on a better understanding for the organization of what reputation is. How should we define it as a company? Does it really matter to us? How much does it matter to us? How do we manage it? And most importantly, also, how do we measure it? And it wasn't until we really answered these questions and really got our arms around this over the following year or two that it became incredibly clear the opportunity that it represented for us in having this new knowledge and this new appreciation for our reputation in terms of being able to better engage with stakeholders who really matter to us on our business, and to do a better job of driving the outcomes that we were hoping to achieve through our reputational efforts.
So you really, you clearly did your research and due diligence. So it took you some time. And you came to the conclusion that reputation really does matter.
Yes.
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 And did it matter more or less with different audiences? What did you look at? How did you look at that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And one of the things that we came to learn through the process is that reputation is very stakeholder specific, and the importance that different stakeholders placed on different aspects of the company, or different attributes of the company really varied greatly in terms of what they expected from us, and where they were looking for us to excel, and what they really wanted us to focus on. So that was one of the findings that we came to learn through this process, is that it really starts with defining who are the stakeholders that are most important to you, who are the stakeholders that you rely on to drive the kinds of outcomes that you're looking for through your reputational efforts, and then making sure that you really get a good detailed sense of what those expectations are that they have and the relative importance of those expectations, so that you can be sure that you're focusing on the things that really matter to them, and prioritizing those things in your efforts to better engage with them.
Did this exploration end up identifying particularly critical audiences and what mattered to them? Talk a bit more about that. That's completely fascinating.
Yeah, sure. It all started with a principle, right? And that principle being that reputation matters, that reputation does lead to business outcomes. And that leads you to two big questions, which is who are the stakeholders that you rely on for those outcomes? And secondly, where in the world do you really want to focus your efforts, right? Where are the markets that matter to you and future growth that you're trying to achieve as a company? And it really forces you to consider these things and have really productive conversations that perhaps we've never had before. But we did land on a series of stakeholders that we felt were priority audiences for us, and some of them you could imagine, the general public, of course, and within the general public, there's always those opinion elite type audiences that are important. Healthcare professionals and providers, clearly for us as a healthcare company, a priority audience. Our employees are another core audience for us, and should be for any company. So those are actually the four core audiences. We also have other ones that we pay very close attention to. Policy elite type audiences, investor audiences, and the financial community. But the key is once we identified who those people were, it became an exercise in really understanding them a little bit better, and it leads to sort of the second principle that we had, which is reputation is really about capturing the hearts and minds of your stakeholders. So you really need to go deep into that understanding of, well, what are the ways that people connect with you emotionally as a company, right? What are those benefits that they derive from you in their lives, and how is it that they feel connected or bonded to you as a company? And that's a really deep exploration. It took us a whole year to figure that piece out. And then there's irrational expectations. What are the things that that people are expecting of J&J. When I say people, I mean across all these different stakeholder audiences, going deeply into each particular audience. What is it that they expect of us as a healthcare company, as the largest, most diverse healthcare company in the world? And as you can imagine, there's the antis, if you will, of, well, they expect high quality products, safe products. They expect good governance. They expect good innovation, right? They want to understand how we innovate. But beyond that, what's the good that we're doing in the world, right? They have certain expectations about our social obligations and what are we doing to, for example, strengthen healthcare systems around the world, or create greater, health equity in different parts of the world. So these are things that that we came to understand at a level of granularity that was necessary to really build something very bespoke and customized to our company.
And the point that you mentioned about the expectation of doing good in the world over the years that you've been, responsible for reputation, has that increased in importance as many people think, or is that true? What have you found?
Oh, there's no doubt that's increased in importance, and there's plenty of examples out there. There's a lot in the literature about it, but we've been able to prove that out even in our own data. That's really becoming increasingly important, and we're seeing it rise in importance inside of our models. What's interesting about Johnson & Johnson is that people do have high expectations for doing a lot of good in the world, and we certainly do a lot of good in the world. I'd say even much more than other companies inside of our peer set. But what we found was, from a performance standpoint, they weren't necessarily seeing that in all cases, right? And not all of our stakeholders were appreciating all the good that we do in the world. And I think that's just part of our DNA and who we are as a company, in terms of not really being out there, pounding our chest about the good things that we do in the world. But it did cause a bit of a sea change in how we think about it, and getting a little bit more proactive in trying to bring those stories across to these external audiences in particular, so that they have more exposure to all the good that we do, and in a variety of ways, and across the planet, and how we do them and why we do them. So that's a bit of a focus for us now, as a result of what we came to learn through this process and through the system that we have.
So, you touched upon, the sort of deep dive you did before, when you decided to determine how to think about and measure corporate reputation. Can you, I think everyone would be very interested to hear more about how you went about setting the system up and the philosophy that you employed in doing that.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about some of the conversations that we needed to have up front around really landing on first the philosophy around reputation and what it is and how you measure it. And I'd say that there isn't one answer, that there isn't one solution or one size fits all. There's very different ways that those in the industry come to think about reputation and certainly measure reputation. We were looking for something that was much more robust, something that would give us more than just a key metric that says, hey, here's what, for example, trust in the company is, or here's how people score our reputation. We wanted something that was more of an introspective on the company, that gave us the sort of the detail and the robustness to really draw out some insights to say, okay, what do we do with all this information? What do we do with all this data that we've collected? How do we make that actionable, and how do we actually use it to improve upon our reputation? So we've created a system. I think you mentioned it in my introduction, that we call the GRIS, which is our Global Reputation Intelligence System, and it's a proprietary system. It's something that we built in-house from the ground up. It's an always-on system. It's real time. It's predictive, and the way that we were able to achieve that was to take more of a holistic view around reputation and what a system needs to have, the elements of a system, in order to give you that depth of insight that we were seeking. And so, we have an always-on tracking study in 10 plus markets among 6 plus audiences, where we are measuring our performance on those rational expectations that people have for us as a company, as well as those emotional drivers of attachment as well. So the sample sizes, as you can imagine, are quite enormous, and that was very intentional because we wanted to be in a position where we could really dive down into any period of time, and through our advanced analytics work, be able to isolate what's causing the effects that we're seeing at that point in time. If we're seeing a rise in reputation, what's driving that? If we're seeing a decline, what's the cause of that? So we felt coming right out of the gate that this needed to be continuous. It needed to be robust, but it also needed to be fast. It needed to be rapid. It needed to be real time, and that's where our listening capability comes in, where we have over the course of the years really refined it to be much more incisive. And one of the things that we had done was we had actually mapped our listening system to the drivers of reputation through some really advanced taxonomies, so that we know we're listening to the right conversations that are taking place out there about the company all over the world in 20 plus languages. So it puts us in a position to really see around the corner and understand where there's potential risk that the company might be facing, where there is opportunity for us to better engage or to jump in on a conversation that we know is relevant to us and where people would expect us to lean in and have a voice. It also gives us the ability to create a report that goes up to our top 200 leaders every morning that says, hey, here's what we're seeing out there, here's what we're hearing, here's what you need to know to start your day. So there's a couple of components to this. There's the advanced analytic component. So we have a whole group dedicated to doing advanced analytics on all the data that we have. We have pipelines laid to ingest business data coming in from the business sectors. And we have deep expertise on the team as well to help interpret all of it, bring meaning to it, and be able to communicate it across to our internal stakeholders.
And do you link it to financial metrics?
Yeah, that's the holy grail, right? And I think that's we've made some pretty good progress there. But there's more work that we need to do, and that's part of my desire to be a member of MASB, and why I'm so anxious to work with so many of the other members, and certainly on some of these projects that we've been talking about earlier this morning. And we wanted to get to that point where we came to an understanding of when we see a 1 point increase or some sort of an increase in our reputational score, what does that translate to in terms of financial value to the company? Because we know, like many others I'm sure on this call, that especially today, so many decisions are made in companies based on financial returns, ROI. It creates sort of a common language, and it certainly levels the playing field. But at the same time, it can be hard to try to put a financial impact metric against a social impact program or a brand building activity or something along those lines. But we tried to tackle it, and I think we made some really good progress in terms of being able to quantify, relying very heavily on intermediate type measures, behavioral type measures, to say, hey, when we see an increase of this amount, here's the kind of behavior it leads to, and that behavior leads to a certain desired outcome, be it someone wanting to buy more of our products, or a doctor willing to prescribe more of our products, or getting us a seat at the table when policy discussions are being had that are relevant to us and give us that license to operate, whatever it might be. But being able to put some financials around that, and we've made some pretty good progress there.
That's which is fascinating. So do the 200 top executives really read this every morning?
Yeah, they do. They do read it. We track it. We track readership, so we know exactly who's reading it. And when, let's say, when there's certain individuals who read it, that might motivate or compel others to do the same. So yeah, we get good readership from the very top, and I think part of that is driven by the fact too that we have also achieved that state of having a metric on our company's scorecard around reputation. And that metric, it's a singular metric that we call the ERI, our Enterprise Reputation Index, is derived through the GRIS system. It's one of the outputs, and that's something that gets reviewed on a quarterly basis by the executive committee and reviewed with the board of directors as well.
Which is fabulous. Where it should be happening. So, what would you say? The outcome has been of all this of these efforts.
I'd say the outcome is a couple of things for us. A new appreciation for what we have in terms of our brand and the power of that brand and the health of that brand and the reputational value that brand brings to the business. I'd say that we've really advanced our work in creating a reputation culture where people come to understand that and really understand too how the work they do, the decisions they make, the things they're putting out there have the potential to impact on our reputation. So I think that's certainly an outcome of this that we're very excited about. I think it puts a special, a more of a clear lens or greater focus on our external audiences, right? It brings the outside into the organization a little bit better, where in a way we're giving our stakeholder a seat at the table as well and a voice in how we arrive at making decisions, as a company that are going to benefit those stakeholders. There's just so many benefits, that we derive from this, and I'm trying to think of another that it might be helpful for this. But now, we do rely on it very heavily, when it comes to planning, our business planning each year, and our strategic planning and our long range planning as well, where we want to bring that voice in and make it much more of a focus. In terms of making sure that our plans and what we intend to do will indeed achieve the results that we're looking for. And then finally, one last thing that it has done for us is it has enabled us really for the first time to bring a certain level of accuracy to the impact of the programs and activations that we initiate at the corporate level, that perhaps wasn't there, at least not to this level of detail in the past, where we can actually quantify what that impact is and even the economic impact of that, where in the past it was a little bit more challenging, again, given sort of the world we operate in from a corporate equity perspective.
So what would your advice be for other companies who, want to do a better job at measuring their corporate reputation? Do you have any tips?
I would say, again, there isn't one size fits all. I think every company who's interested in this needs to think about what's best for them. And there's certainly a lot out there today. This is a growing field. And one where there's a lot of literature. There's a lot of companies who are active in this space. It seems like I'm meeting with a new one every week, because we're always looking to bolt on to what we have. And I would say, come to sort of an understanding of really what's going to resonate with senior management. And for us, it was really focusing on the financial outcomes of reputation and helping them understand that it really does matter, that this is an asset like any other asset that needs to be nurtured. It needs to be developed. It needs to be, appreciated and managed. So that's another, I guess, piece of advice that I would give is, bring perspective to what reputation is, and try to bring it in line with other assets that the company deploys and looks to manage. I would say also, make sure you've got the sort of the right people, looking at this. So for us, that meant bringing people in who are very easy around data, who understand data and analytics, and have that sort of that core strength. But beyond that, have an appreciation for different parts of the business, have applied data and insights and analytics to other parts of the business, be it communication or brand or marketing or employee engagement. So bringing a good diverse set of people in who have different backgrounds and different experiences, because that's one of the ways that we operate is we really operate very much as a pretty close-knit team. And when we're faced with big challenges, even, how do we bring this up? How do we communicate this? How do we get people excited about it? It's great to just have those different perspectives and have each other play off of one another. It just always gets us to the best solution. And it always gets us on the right track. And that's where we have our greatest success.
And one of the things I think you referred to was that you managed to get your corporate reputation metric included on scorecards. Does that mean it impacts executives' pay?
Yeah. So like any company scorecard, it's certainly it's a factor. Yeah. So and I think that's, again, that just speaks to the importance we as a company place on reputation and how much we believe and value our employees as contributors to that reputation. So yeah, it's on the scorecard, and many of the metrics on the scorecard do go into that calculation. Yes.
So that is from my experience, I'd say that's pretty close to the holy grail, that when you manage to convince the guys at the top to put the reputation metric where it counts for them personally and affects their compensation, that's when I think you've really embedded it into the culture. So I think that's something that I would sort of say that, from what you've said, that clearly should be a goal that other marketers should be aspiring to. So, Michael, we're absolutely thrilled to have you involved in MASB. What do you want to get out of being in MASB? Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought you might ask me that question, and I did give a little bit of thought to that, and there's really two things that come to mind for me. One is the group that I manage, Global Strategy and Insights. We are a full service team. We service all the different functions inside of GCA, and even beyond that, we work with different parts of this large, diverse organization of Johnson & Johnson. But as of late, we really have made a concerted effort to really double down on measurement behind this idea that what gets measured gets done. And we've got many tools in our kit to allow us to do a really good job of measuring the effectiveness, be it of our communications, our social programs, whatever it might be. But we're always looking to improve. We're always looking to get better and really stay on top of this. And so I felt MASB and what I had come to learn about the organization and where where MASB is focused and the things that they are leaning into and working on. I felt that there was a really good fit there from a measurement perspective. I'd say the other relates to the whole economic impact, right? The question of what is the financial value of brand? What is the financial value of reputation? Looking at this as how do we better communicate that? How do we better demonstrate that? Because it is the way that decisions are getting made more and more in terms of the financial returns, ROIs, and like I said before, it helps to level the playing field, but it can also be challenging, especially at a corporate level, where the connection to sales, the connection to some of those, tangible outcomes is a little bit more dubious. And it sounds as though this is something that an intractable problem, if you will, that this team has been working on for a number of years. And with some really good thinkers and some really good thought leadership. And, again, I don't ever want to be behind the curve, so I want to be ahead of the curve. And I thought that this is a group that could certainly help advance my thinking, my team's thinking, and get us there as a corporation.
Okay, and there is so this is we look forward very much to getting you involved then in our brand valuation and evaluation, and our, demonstrating the economic value of reputation and marketing initiatives. So that will be terrific. So,
Joanna, we do have a couple questions coming in.
okay.
If we might. One is J&J is moving into 2 companies. Did Michael look at corporate reputation for consumer products, or is it just pharma?
Yeah, it's a great question. So historically, and even today, our focus is on the Johnson & Johnson brand, right? The enterprise brand, the trust market, if you will. And that, historically did include 3 segments of business. So consumer, pharmaceuticals, and med tech. And, as you rightfully pointed out, we are spinning off our consumer segment of our business, but we are still tracking the Johnson & Johnson reputation, which stays with the pharmaceutical and med tech businesses. So now we'll be looking at the contributions of those 2 segments of our business to our corporate reputation.
Fantastic. Another question that we have coming through is, how does your organization interface with marketing during marketing planning?
Yeah, so very much so. It's in many ways the tip of the spear, right? In that our brand team, our brand equity team, or our marketing team here at corporate, they start with insights, right? It's in their minds, it's all about setting goals and objectives around things that they want to achieve with different stakeholder audiences through the work that they are commissioned to do, and through the work that they are funding. And they have come to appreciate the power of insights and the power of the data that we can bring forward through the work that we do. And very often we'll start off our planning with learning sessions, and some of those are a full day. Very often they're full day learning sessions where we review what we've come to learn in the external environment, what we've come to learn through all the insight work that we've done over the course of the year, and what we're seeing changing, and what we predict the projection will be going into that year and into the following year in terms of where stakeholders are and they're thinking about J&J and their perceptions of us, on a variety, and those rational attributes and those emotional drivers as well.
Oh, we have a question here which I wish I would have asked. This is a very interesting one. It's from Nick. He says, to what extent does the corporate reputation system include internal audiences, employees, and also potential recruits?
Yeah, so it factors, employees factor very heavily into our system. They're probably the audience that matters most to us. They are what we consider to be a core audience, so they go into the calculation of ERI, our Enterprise Reputation Index, at a pretty significant weight. So they are certainly captured inside the system. And in terms of prospective employees and our ability to attract the best talent, et cetera, we capture that through our general population. So we are able to qualify those who, we would deem to be prospective employees, in the future. So that's how we kind of keep a pulse on that audience as well.
Great. And I think we have time for one more. This one's from Jim. Do the J&J finance people physically sit with your group and with the marketing team?
In terms of the space, the office space, physically we are in different locations. However, we're all just a floor or two away from each other, and we work very collaboratively together as a team. So physically we're not together, but we do we don't let that hold us back. We collaborate as a team, really across all the functions within corporate affairs. They're all centered here in world headquarters And we sit in separate spaces, but there is just a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement. It's a very dynamic environment.
Okay, great. Well, that was a very quick one, so we're gonna do one more here. Venki, our advisory council chair, would like to ask a question. We're going to unmute him. So Venki, you should be on.
Hi,
Thank you. Great interview. Related to that question is, you have a number of brands, starting from Tylenol all the way to DePuy, and do you also relate the equity of these brands to the corporate reputation in some way, and have a dashboard or some kind of tracking?
Yeah, great question. So our remit, our focus is really on the Johnson & Johnson, the corporate brand. But as part of that, and the whole system is really built around that, but with an understanding that a lot of the equity that Johnson & Johnson has as a brand is driven through people's familiarity and associations with some of those iconic brands, like you mentioned, like Tylenol. And so we are always, always interested in understanding how that is shaping their perceptions of the Johnson & Johnson trust mark. And we are, work very closely with those teams as well to ingest data from their parts of the business, especially on the brands and the parts of the business that we know halo back to Johnson & Johnson, and vice versa, quite frankly. And that's where we sort of reach out into the businesses and form those relationships, where we're able to sort of bring that information into the businesses. And at the same time, we can benefit in terms of being able to understand and explain any changes to the Johnson & Johnson reputation or the Johnson & Johnson image, based on what those brands are doing, and sort of where they stand in the minds of their consumers and their stakeholders.
Okay, well, that went by very, very quickly. I think we're out of time. Joanna, did you have any final thoughts?
No, I just want to say, it is going to be great to work with you, Michael, and we look forward very much to it. So welcome to MASB again.
Thank
and
you.
to meeting some of your team too. Yeah, and Jim would love to get your finance people involved.
Sure, happy to. Okay, great, terrific.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.